She subsequently violated that probation and was sentenced to prison.
As the investigation continues, the state builds its case.
My reaction was the same as that of the FBI agents and state police officers investigating the case, and that was, I can't believe this is real. As we delved further into the case, we found out just how real it was.
They get help from an unexpected source.
Cindy Hendy became cooperative within a few days of her arrest. She wanted to talk, she wanted to give information.
Cindy Hendy tells investigators that although she has only been assisting David Parker Ray in the abductions and assaults for months, he told her he's been torturing and killing for years.
I believe there are bodies here. It remains to be seen whether they're in the lake itself or whether they're in the desert somewhere. But I personally find it impossible to believe that somebody that had developed this behavior to such an extent, he would not be killing people. This is such a vast, rural, and remote area, and this body of water is so large and difficult to search. It's just too convenient a disposal site for bodies for them not to be there.
Despite extensive searches throughout the lake and the surrounding desert, however, no bodies are ever found.
David worked as a quasi-park ranger, and he knew that area inside out. And there were caves and mines and all sorts of places out there where he could have easily hidden whatever he didn't want to be found and would never be found.
Cindy Hendy also says that besides herself and Jesse, David Parker Ray also had help from Roy Yancey. Police pay a visit to Roy Yancey, who surprises them with an unexpected confession.
Marie Parker was a missing person in Truth or Consequences. She had been reported missing several years before.
Marie Parker had dated Yancey for a little while previously. On the night Marie disappeared, Jesse told her that she'd take her home.
It was not until we interviewed Roy Yancey that we finally understood what had happened.
Roy Yancey indicated that he and Jesse were involved in taking Marie Parker to David's house.
Marie had been abducted, much like Kelly had been, against her will, and that ultimately David, in another measure of control, Roy Yancey had been instructed to kill Marie Parker.
And help David dispose of her body.
But when Yancey took the authorities out to find her body, David had moved it, so they've never found Marie's body.
Roy Yancey pleads guilty to second-degree murder and is sentenced to 20 years in prison. He is up for parole in 2010. Charged with 25 felony counts for her part in the crimes against Angie Montano and Cindy V. Hill, and facing up to 197 years in jail, Cindy Hendy cuts a deal, and on April 6, 1999, pleads guilty to the kidnapping and sexual assault of Cindy V. Hill.
Cindy Hendy was given a 54-year sentence. She was sentenced to serve 36 years of that. She'll serve the remaining time on probation upon her release. David cooperated to an extent in the investigation. He would talk to investigators and he would describe various sexual acts and various sexual encounters with women, but all in the context of a fantasy world, never admitting that these things actually happened.
I get my excitement from making a woman happy. I got pleasure out of the woman getting pleasure. I did what they wanted me to do.
David Parker Ray faces 3 trials, one each for the crimes against Cindy V. Hill, Angie Montano, and Kelly Garrett.
I was scared. I was very scared to testify because I didn't know who was going to believe me.
In Kelly's trial, David Parker Ray is found guilty on 12 counts of kidnapping, criminal penetration, and conspiracy. His sentencing is put off until all of the trials are complete. The state then begins its case on behalf of Cindy V. Hill.
During Cindy V. Hill's preliminary hearing, I placed an item of evidence in front of her, which was the collar and chain. When that was placed in front of her, she looked at it, stood up in her chair, pointed at David and screamed. She then continued screaming and was escorted from the courtroom to a separate area. Paramedics were called to make sure that she was going to be able to continue.
Before the closing arguments, David's attorneys approached the DA.
As we were getting ready to rest, David said, "That's enough."
In exchange for all charges against his daughter Jessie being dropped and her release from jail, David Ray agrees to plead guilty for his crimes against Cindy V. Hill.
The only matters that were not brought against David were the cases involving Angelica Montano. That is because Angelica died prior to these matters going to trial.
On September 30th, 2001, David Parker Ray receives the maximum sentence: 224 years in prison for his crimes against Kelly Garrett and Cindy V. Hill. On May 28, 2002, he is transferred to the Lee County Correctional Facility in Hobbs, New Mexico, to serve his sentence. While his paperwork is processed, David Ray is taken to a holding cell, and he slumps over, dead of a massive heart attack. He dies without having officially served one day of his sentence. David Parker Ray may be dead, but for many, he is far from gone.
This case is a case that gives you nightmares. You try to separate these matters from your personal life. It can't be done.
These women were objects to him. He did not care about these women. What he cared about was fulfilling his sexual fantasy. They were nothing to him. Nothing.
I'm scared. I just can't do anything anymore. I can't take my kids to the park. I can't go to a grocery store. I can't do anything by myself. It's just a very hard life.
5 children shot every day.